This is Sports Spectrum, the sports and faith podcast where we bring Jesus into the conversation. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
Hey guys, welcome to Sports Spectrum. I am Jason Romano. My email address, jason@sportspectrum.com. Jason@sportspectrum.com. Love to hear from you. Any guest ideas? Any thoughts on today's show with Christian Yaeger? Or just want to say hello? Feel free to email me, jason@sportspectrum.com. We are presented today by Water Mission, nonprofit Christian engineering ministry that fights the global water crisis with safe water, sanitation, and hygiene solutions in developing countries and disaster areas. We love Water Mission. You can join their great work. You can pray for them and donate over at watermission.org and fight the global water crisis, watermission.org. We're also presented today by Compassion International. We know how great Compassion is. They've been partners with us for a while, releasing children from poverty. Right now, they're teaming up with pro athletes to do just that in a situation where COVID-19 has left nearly 70,000 children without a sponsor. You can learn more at compassion.com/teamup to donate and be a part of teaming up with Compassion and pro athletes to release children from poverty. Today on the show, we welcome Christian Yaeger. He is the host of a show called This Cosmic Planet on Yippee TV, which is a children's streaming platform. And, you know, when I was pitched this idea to talk to Christian Yaeger on the podcast, I thought, don't know a lot about him, but let me do some research. And the more I researched on this guy, he's got a pretty crazy story. He's, an avid surfer and actually competed and he was part of surfing competitions as a teen in the NSSA, and then just went and lived a pretty interesting life, traveling here, there, and everywhere, all around the world. He was in Mexico. He's been in Los Angeles producing films. He meets his wife and then goes to Bible college in Australia and then goes to Southeast Asia. Then he comes back to Los Angeles. He was born and raised in Hawaii, and it's a fascinating story for this guy who had a real encounter with Jesus in his mid-20s, and he talks about that very, very dark time and how a friend helped plant some seeds that would eventually lead Christian into a relationship with Jesus Christ. He also shares a little bit about surfing on today's show, and he tells the story of, well, let's just say it involved a shark. Christian Yaeger is our guest today. Take a listen to Christian joining us here on Sports Spectrum. Christian, what's up, brother? Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to talk to you. Good to see you. You were in Long Beach, California, and I am in Connecticut, so I'm a bit jealous, although it's warm where we are today. In 3 or 4 months, as we said, that warm weather won't be so warm here, but it must be pretty nice out there in Long Beach.
Pretty epic, yeah, except we were about to have a dirty little heat wave this weekend. It's probably going to be 100 degrees at our house, but that's okay because I surfed this morning and the water is ice cold, like middle of winter cold. So I'm looking forward to it to jump back up a few degrees.
There
it's
you
in
go.
my 4mm winter wetsuit, and I could have used booties. It was uncannily cold. It was not okay.
Well, I got to tell you, you lived a fascinating life, my friend. I look forward to kind of walking through the journey a little bit with you on your faith, with surfing, and kind of having gone all over the world. But before we go there, let's talk about this cosmic planet, which is on Yippee TV. So I want to have you tell us about the show and the platform of Yippee, because I think it's an interesting one for those that don't know.
Yeah, so this concept of a travel show with some justice causes as well being in there has been like brewing in my heart for the greater last 10 years or so. And I started getting a few visions of it. When I was living in Australia, going to college out there, and I kind of put it aside and didn't really put too much energy or thought into it after I had pitched it to a couple networks, and it was a no-go, just like they didn't have the money to launch new episodes. And then miraculously, a meeting was set up out of nowhere when I was the just not even pushing the show anymore. I stopped writing it. I stopped like, I wasn't even like gonna do it. Nothing was gonna happen with it. So I got an email from my good friend who's a pastor out here in Orange County, and he's like, hey, I need you to meet with this guy. He's heading up a brand new network. Just meet with him. And I was like, regarding what? Like, just go. And so I thought, okay, I have a background working in production. Maybe they're going to be a few job openings. Just went in with no expectations. And I just like asked a couple of questions, like what kind of jobs are going on? What are you guys looking for? He broke down a few roles that I had no interest in, no passion for. And then he's like, what are you passionate about? And then a raw epic version of the show just poured out of my spirit, and he was like tingling. And this is Brandon who oversees the whole network, and this is before they hired anybody. I was the first person he met with about a show, about potential original content, and he was going back and forth with ideas, and it was just like a really supernatural room. That was, honestly, we were both like had tingles on our back about doing a travel and adventure action sports show highlighting surfing and people all around the world who are doing really positive work in their own backyard. And so he's like, come back in 2 weeks and develop it a little more. And so I just hit the grindstone and just started hammering out some structures. And thankfully my wife helped me so much because I have grammatical issues when it comes to writing. But the content was there, but thankfully she helped me a lot with that. And we just kept developing it more and more over the next few months. And then it got greenlit in July of last year. And we shot the pilot in San Diego in November, right before Thanksgiving.
Wow.
That was the San Diego episode. And yeah, essentially it's a show that showcases the beautiful cultures around the world. That's the goal, is that we're going to showcase how amazing biodiversity is and highlight nonprofits and people doing positive work in their own backyards, and the premise is doing it in one day and getting as crazy and wild and having as much fun with local kids as possible. Going to be teaching. The goal is to travel 7 continents and as many countries as we can and highlight the cool stuff about this planet that I love so much and I've learned to appreciate over the last 34 years I've been alive.
That's awesome. And for those that don't know, because you mentioned kids, I don't think I even explained this well. Yippee TV is really a kids network, right? Like a streaming network.
Platform just for kids, super safe content. You can leave them there with like all access and they're going to find just good stuff. And they have a ton of original content, some YouTube style shows. Some pretty funny kids they have stumbled across that are really just like stars. They're gonna do great things, but just so funny. And we actually got to have some of those kids on This Cosmic Planet on the first episode in San Diego. We taught a couple kids how to surf down there, and they're just like so funny, little hams.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I wish my daughter was younger. She's getting older now, but when she was 6, 7, 8, I wish that Yippee TV was around where she could really sit there and just devour great content, fun. And I watched some of it too before our interview, and I was like, hey, this is just as entertaining for me. I mean, I don't need to be 5, 6 years old to enjoy this. You're really good on that show. So I want to recommend people to go check out This Cosmic Planet. Check out Yippee TV. It's a lot of fun. What's the coolest thing that you've gotten to do? Maybe that pilot episode was one, but I know there's a few episodes out now. What's the coolest thing that you've gotten to do on the show?
Coolest. Well, I think, that's a loaded question because probably the most fun thing I got to do was share an experience for the show with one of my best friends, Billy, who's a San Diego native. And we got to surf one of our favorite waves together, and then go straight 2 beaches over and teach some kids how to surf. And I owned a surf school in LA for a number of years when I was living up there. I ran a really fun little side gig. And so I love teaching kids how to surf. It's like such a rewarding thing because you see their faces light up and they just like get filled with stoke. And it's like a universal joy that it's like the same across the board, every single surf lesson. And you see it once they catch their first wave, they light up like a Christmas tree, and it's honestly really rewarding. It reinvigorates the stoke inside of me when I was first learning this, how to surf, and it's truly epic.
That's cool. Christian Yaeger is joining us here on Sports Spectrum. So you grew up in Hawaii, right? And basically, were you surfing right out of the womb? Like, what was that like? Surfing was embedded in you from an early age, I have to imagine.
Pretty much. My older brother surfed. My dad was a surfer from Huntington Beach, California, and I didn't really have another choice. There's not a lot of other activities to do in Hawaii other than like hiking and mostly water sports. The world revolves around the ocean there and nature, and I'm just so thankful for those years of just learning respect for Mother Earth and for the ocean and for people and for waves. Just a deep appreciation that I've held on to my whole life, and it's a really special experience. Just this morning I surfed in Huntington Beach. There was a pod of dolphins that cruised just a few feet in front of me and just were hanging out, and as well as a mom and a baby seal, or I think that was a sea lion, that wasn't a harbor seal. But yeah, they're just the wildlife experience alone is just so cool and so rad. Like, what other action sport do you really get to spend time with the local animals, the real locals, who are also riding waves with you? They leisurely ride waves for fun, like, which is just mind blowing. Like, yeah, you guys get it. They get it.
Yeah, I tell you, the non-water sports guy that I am automatically thinks, well, there's sharks in those waters too. Christian, you got to be careful. So walk me through why I shouldn't be fearful and, afraid, if you will. And I'm not speaking just for me, certainly, but there's a lot of people who I think that, like, I don't want to go into the ocean because there's that chance of something happening. And I see you laughing. So please talk us off the ledge.
I've been chased out of the water by tiger sharks. Like, I get the fear. It's real. It's tangible. I just don't think about it. It's a deliberate choice to not think about it because the stats are stacked in your favor. And especially around Southern California, where shark attacks are really rare. Further north, Central Coast, Northern California, they have a significant amount of great whites, and the Farallon Islands are a breeding ground off of San Francisco. And there are a little more fatal attacks between Santa Barbara and San Francisco. I know there was one not too long ago. It's a bodyboarder near Vanderbilt Air Force Base. And I ended up surfing like a couple weeks after that at that same location. And they're like, not advised surf signs. There was a fatal attack here. I was like, oh, but it's good out. Like, it's going for a little bit. But no, it's a healthy fear. It's you need to be aware, but at the same time, like, what's the risk versus reward? And for me, the reward way outweighs the risk right now, because I don't feel in danger enough that it's something I shouldn't be out there doing. And I growing up in Hawaii, I know the Hamilton family, Bethany Hamilton, who lost her arm, really close with her two older brothers, Timmy and Noah, and they lived a really crazy experience, having their little sister almost die, and they saved her. But she's gone on to do remarkable work, and she's such an inspiration, and she surfs better than 99.9% of people on planet Earth now, which is like so cool.
All right. So you said you were chased out of the water by tiger sharks. Can you just share that story, though? I'm really fascinated by it.
It was one shark.
Okay.
One tiger shark.
One is enough.
Yeah, it was definitely enough. So it was on the east side of Kauai, near the little town of Kupa'a. And my brother and I had paddled out pretty early, like first light, and it was world-class conditions. Double overhead, perfect, like draining tubes along this sandbar. And there was nobody else out. Like, truly epic, like, situation here. And we paddle out. I get a couple, like, really good waves. My brother breaks his board on, like, his second wave because it was so powerful. And he goes in, sits on the beach, and just watching me. And I'm sitting out the back by myself, maybe for about 10 minutes waiting for the next set. I see This is about when the sun is just getting up high enough that you can see into the water. And the water's crystal clear, blue, beautiful water. Mountains are behind you, like green, just absolutely gorgeous. And I see these bait fish charging at me, like coming from outside of the lineup, coming right at me. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So I put my feet on my board and I'm just hyper observant at this point. And then I see it look probably maybe 8 to 10 feet, I'm guessing, way bigger than I am. And it just thrashes these fish. And I see all of its stripes. So I knew exactly what it was. And I just watch it. I'm like, you have a few seconds to figure out what you're going to do. And I watch it. And then I think it traces me because they can sense they have a sixth sense. They can sense electricity in the water and our pulses and stuff. And it caught on to me. It starts looping. Just did a big hot lap. And when it got around the outside, back toward on the ocean side of me, I take my board and I like dart sprint. I jump on and I'm kicking and paddling as fast as you humanly can my chin is down and I didn't look for another wave. I just because I knew there could be a set wave behind me and I just got pummeled by waves just trying to get in. Once I got onto where I could stand up and I was in the shore break, I was just like, take a breath, take some deep breaths. You're okay. I'm like shaking violently, knowing that this thing could have just thrashed me to pieces. And I wait for a few minutes. I don't see it. Wait for a few more minutes. I was like, and I see these perfect waves rolling. So I paddle back out for another maybe 30 or 45 minutes. And then I see it come back. And I'm like, I'm out of here. I see it like outside the lineup, maybe about 30 or 40 feet. And I just went in. I was like, I am good. I definitely got mine today and dodged death a little bit.
Today's show is presented by Water Mission, fighting the global water crisis. They are doing amazing work right now, working to stop the global spread of COVID-19 by providing urgently needed safe water, sanitation, and hygiene solutions to refugee settlements and other vulnerable communities. Listen to some of these numbers with regards to water and the crisis that's going on. 4.4 billion people, that's billion with a B, lack access to adequate sanitation. 2.1 billion people lack access to safe water across the world. 2.1 billion people cannot find clean water right now. That's hard to think about and hard to believe. But thankfully, there's a nonprofit Christian engineering ministry like Water Mission that is fighting the global water crisis. And they're doing it with your help, with our help. They're great partners with us. We want you to be a part of what they're doing. You can pray with them, and you can donate and join the fight against the global water crisis with Water Mission by going to the website watermission.org, watermission.org. We're also presented today by Compassion International, and COVID-19 has left nearly 70,000 children right now without a sponsor through Compassion International. And that is the capacity of an average NFL stadium. So right now, Compassion is teaming up with some pro athlete friends to respond to this challenge. And with your help, they are hoping to fill the stadium with urgent support for a stadium's worth of children in crisis. You can help right now by donating and becoming a part of the Team Up initiative with Compassion. You go to compassion.com/teamup, compassion.com/teamup, and help release a child from poverty today. Christian Yaeger, he's our guest today on Sports Spectrum. We are the intersection of sports and faith. So let's talk about your faith, your walk with the Lord, where that was sort of began for you, how that got shaped for you, and kind of what the Lord has done in your life on your journey.
Yeah. I was pretty agnostic for my entire adult life until, maybe my mid-20s, when I was just at the bottom, like rock bottom, living in LA, like just empty and broken, and had been doing like the modeling and acting thing for years now, and just had like toxic people in my life and just, yeah, everything was as dark as it could be. And it was honestly like, I felt like I didn't feel like being alive anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like dark, dark rock bottom. And I had one friend through that season who, surprisingly, he's like the guy who introduced me to Brandon with Yippee TV, but he, my buddy Diego, he was my surf bud for years, and I started hanging out with him. He had just moved back from Australia and went to Bible college out there, and I didn't care. I didn't care that he was like a Christian. I didn't bother me. He was just a surf buddy, and he would like be my designated driver. We'd go out to bars and like hang out, and he'd always be there for me. And he didn't drink specifically for that season for me, because I was like drugs and alcohol all the time, just living that life and going out all the time. And when I was at rock bottom, like he was there for me, encouraging me, supporting me, like loving on me, not judging me in the slightest, like living life with me side by side. And he was there when I was like, I was ready to call it quits. And then I thought of that when I was by myself. Remember, it was a September afternoon when I was 25, and I just broke down in misery, just like crying, empty and just broken and crying out. And then I cried out to the Lord. I was like, yo, if you're real, turn up right now. And I just felt this, and I honestly wouldn't have done that if he hadn't been there in my life. Like, and he like has this giant cross tattoo that he like laughs about getting when he was like 17. But like, honestly, that image stuck in my head. Like the cross was in my mind because of him and his giant stupid tattoo.
Wow.
And I just, cried out to the Lord, and I just felt this waterfall of peace just gush over me. And the Holy Spirit met me in that room right there. And it was so tangible. And I just felt like peace and joy for the first time in years, like true peace and true joy. And I just went into this deep place of repentance, and I just, I felt the Holy Spirit tell me, and I wasn't even like I don't like know if I didn't say like some sinner's prayer, but I just cried out to the Lord, and he just like turned up, and he told me to forgive a couple people right then and there. And I wrote emails immediately forgiving these people. And I just like, it was the start. And then I had breakthrough, one thing after another over the next couple of years, just start to unpack in my life. And I got more and more, I had some more Christian friends in my life, some brothers who were encouraging me. And I got plugged into this Bible study in LA that had just started. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Judah Smith. He has a church up in Seattle. And
Absolutely.
So I found out that he was doing a study in Beverly Hills. And my first night I went, he's like, we're going up to this house of mine. We're going to do baptisms. And so I got baptized the first night. I went to this study by Judah, and like, it's just like one thing after the next. I've just seen the favor of the Lord. And then I knew there was a crossroad, because I was still living in LA, and I still like was having some dependency, substance abuse problems there, like as I was growing. And I felt the Lord tell me just to get out of LA. And I didn't know where to go or what to do, but I went back to Hawaii. It was like my retreat, and I just didn't have any plans to leave until I knew where I was going to go. And I just hung out and surfed for about 3 months. I was only meant to be there for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I stayed for 2 or 3 months until I was just like so frustrated, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know where I was supposed to go. And then I get a call from Diego one morning where I'm like in tears, journaling, like so frustrated, just wrestling with God. And he's like, hey, I've had a word on my heart for a long time for you, maybe a month or two. And I just feel like God's telling me you should go do college in Sydney. And so Hillsong College, which he went to college and did there. And I laughed in his face. I was like, no chance. No way, no chance. And then I couldn't, it was like, all right, no worries. I'm just putting it out there. And then honestly, I felt like I couldn't escape this for the next 24 hours. Like after I got off the phone with him, I just like felt like I was just running from this thought and this idea. And I was like, I'm not doing that. No. And then had that verse, Matthew 6:36, I think it is, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else will be added to you. And I couldn't shake that verse, and I couldn't shake this thought until I was like, all right, I'll do it. 1 year. What's 1 year of my life? And then I just felt like that peace again. Like I was, okay, I'm on the right direction. I've committed to this. I've made this decision. And then about a week later, I meet my wife through Diego's, one of his, so the girl he was pursuing and started dating was really good friends with my wife in New York. She was living in New York City, going to Hillsong, New York. And she came out to LA for work. I had just booked a ticket back, and was like, the first night we hung out, he set up a little date with us. And I remember telling her, oh, I'm about to move to Australia. And she's like, well, this is going nowhere. But we're really into each other, and I just kept pursuing her. So we ended up getting engaged about 10 months later in Hawaii. And then we moved to Australia about 2 weeks after we got married. Wow. And what turned into 1 year of just me doing college ended up being about 3 years. And my wife was able to do the course with me as well. And we got to share that whole experience together, which opened more doors and just really laid a solid foundation for our faith in the Bible and our marriage. Like, it was the absolute best season ever. And yeah, it was just all building blocks from there.
So that's an amazing story. And I know you go to Australia. From what I was reading, you moved to Southeast Asia to intern with Christine Cain's group, right? With A21, anti-human trafficking organization. You spent time in Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia. So you've kind of been here, there, and everywhere in a lot of your adventures. But what changes when you start traveling after going to Bible college and really understanding that your purpose here is maybe greater than yourself and God's taken you to all these places? What's changing inside of you, Christian?
Well, I think the biggest thing you learn, your lens changes from being self-driven, like you want to experience these epic places for your own personal, like, scrapbook memories and your passport stamps. It turns from that into, well, God loves these people so much, and there's a need for justice. There's a need for empathy and compassion. And when you see the atrocities happening all over the world, like, and you have this conviction, and you're reading your Bible, and what you see, what you're reading, this instruction from the Lord doesn't match up with the realities happening. You're like, well, I got to do something about this. And we started interning with A21, just volunteering here and there when we were living in Sydney, because they have a Sydney office. And an opportunity came up. They offered us an internship in Thailand at the Bangkok office, which we obviously jumped on immediately. And this was right out of college. As soon as we graduated, we essentially put all our stuff in a buddy's garage in Sydney and went there with two little rolly bags. And we were able to work on the ground there with the team, doing prevention and awareness, going to different schools around. And we were able to, like, take survivors out shopping for their first job interviews, to get them like these, like, 16, 17-year-old girls. We were able to, like, help them buy shoes and, like, shampoo and things that they just, like, don't really know what to do, because they're going to have an interview with a coffee shop, and we're just able to love on people. And we're working with this shelter that had a bunch of about 40 to 50 kids, predominantly little boys, near Pattaya, which is a really sketchy, scummy area. About 2 hours south of Bangkok, and a lot of sex workers there, a lot of brothels for children as well. And so we got to work with these kids and, like, show safe love to them, which was really, really special. And we would, like, work on they lived in this giant compound, this beautiful property. In the daytimes, we would just clean and paint and like do yard work and help beautify, place value on where they live. And then they'd get home around 3 or 4 from school, and we would just play soccer till it got dark and just run around like wild maniacs. And remember, they had this palm tree that had rotted out, and we chopped it down, and there was all these grubs living in it. And the kids were chasing my wife around, thinking it was the funniest thing they had ever seen, because my wife's not into bugs.
Right.
She was just like running away from them, and they were just laughing. They chase them to me and think I'd run away as well, and I'd grab them and I'd pop them and I'd run right back, or like just chase them around. And I had a lineup of like 15 kids at any given time waiting for me to spin them around in circles, because that was just like the most fun they could ever have. And that was just epic. That was so beautiful and so fun. And then just getting to go travel with a team to Cambodia, which is the border of Cambodia is a pretty seedy place with Thailand and Cambodia. A lot of trafficking happens through there, because brokers will go into different villages in Cambodia where they're really facing economic hardships and offer the families money in exchange for good paying jobs for the children, and then they'll never see them again in some cases. So we were doing work with kids living in the outskirts on the border there, and just it's heavy, it's hard, but like you have to have a positive lens and not look at the stats and look at one person matters. You change life for one person, that's what matters. Like that's worth it. Every little win is worth it. Every single survivor rescued out of trafficking rings makes all the work worth it, because that's generations of change in those people's lives.
Wow. That's really great that you did that. And it's hard to respond really when you think about all that's going on in the world. And I think start with one is probably the best advice that you can give, is just start with one.
Yeah, a friend of mine, Darren Kiddo, he's one of the pastors at Hillsong here now, came from Sydney. He always said, we can't do everything, but we must do something in regards to social justice. And that has always stuck in my heart. And he's been a real mentor of me ever since we started college. And I think about that all the time. And
it's good.
And so that's some of the things that I just love about this cosmic planet. Is the goal is we had some nonprofits that canceled crazy things, fall out last second. Like we were going to teach veterans with disabilities and come back how to surf, but with just like some technical things fell through. And then another nonprofit we have, that inner city kids they teach surf lessons with, they had a family crisis last second. So, but in the future episodes, we're definitely going to be highlighting nonprofits and really cool organizations, people doing whether it's from environmental impact, people just doing oil spill cleanups, or beach cleanups, whatever it is. I want to showcase positive work that's being done around the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. Christian, as we wind down, last question here. And again, the show is called This Cosmic Planet, Yippee TV. Make sure you go check it out. Get the kiddos involved and make sure they check it out. It's really great and good stuff. So it's 2020. It's a weird year for all of us. So much going on, so many levels of weirdness. But what's God showing you and teaching you right now in the midst of what this crazy 2020 has brought all of us? What's the great lesson the Lord has taught you maybe in the last month or two?
Don't dwell on the negative. When in March, when everything really hit the fan, I was stressed beyond just so much anxiety. We had a ton of jobs disappear left and right. The show obviously got put on ice, traveling restrictions, everything was pretty dark. And then a few months in, maybe it was about a month in, I had this revelation that my daughter's 2 and we're having so much fun together.
Yeah.
These are priceless years. If I was traveling or away or working some 9 to 5 in the office, I'd be missing these years of her development and just getting to spend so much quality time with my wife and my daughter I'm going to look back on this year and be like, that was a truly special year. It's silver lining, because like, obviously there's so much loss of life. There's so much, pain, turmoil, I guess you could say, pain and turmoil happening right now in our country and around the world. And I just keep feeling like you have to keep your eyes tuned to the positive. Like Philippians 4 says, whatever's true and noble, and you should keep your eyes on that stuff. Like that's it. You gotta, and don't be ignorant of everything. Don't just live in ignorant bliss because it's important. One of our instructors said, you need to live with a newspaper in one hand and the Bible in your other, because it's one of our jobs as the church to be there for people in hardships and in crazy times. Like, be community, be family to people, and that's an important thing to do still, but it's just really hard. But yeah, just being appreciative of the time that I get to spend with my family has kind of been the best blessing.
It's good. He is Christian Yaeger, surfer, host of This Cosmic Planet. It's on Yippee TV. You're a great brother, my friend. I appreciate you. Great to meet you. Great to talk to you. You got a wonderful story, and I wish you nothing but the best with the show and just going forward. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jason. It's my pleasure.
And many thanks to Christian Yaeger for joining us here today on Sports Spectrum. Again, go check out Yippee TV and that show, This Cosmic Planet. It's a great streaming service for your kids, rated 5 stars by parents. It's clean. It's safe. It's available everywhere, whether it's Roku or Apple TV, Fire TV, Amazon Fire. And you can learn more by going to yippee.tv, Yippee, Yippee.tv, Yippee.tv. You can get a free trial and check out Christian's show, This Cosmic Planet. Many thanks to Christian for joining us here today on Sports Spectrum. We do want to thank our sponsors and partners today, Water Mission. You can check them out at watermission.org to fight the global water crisis. You can also partner up with Compassion International, our other sponsor here today, and they're releasing children from poverty by going to compassion.com/teamup. Thank you again for tuning in. We want to direct you one more place, to our website, sportspectrum.com. That's the home base for all of our content here at the Ministry of Sports Spectrum. Daily devotionals, articles, and of course, every single podcast can be found at sportspectrum.com. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's show. My name is Jason Romano. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time right here on Sports Spectrum.